In this video, I'm going to discuss Discovery Education, which is a program that we have access to for everyone in all three schools. But before I go into Discovery Education, I wanted to show you something that I'm working on rolling out, which is our Clever portal. Clever is a program that is used to kind of like be like a bookmarks page for all the programs that we can use at Cape Fear Academy. And the great part about this bookmarks page is that it is a single sign-on for all of these websites, so you don't have to put in your username and password for all the different programs. You just sign in once, and then you're going to click on an icon to go to a website. We are very, very, very slowly rolling this out. The only program that you will have access to for right now through Clever is Discovery Education. We don't want to switch over any other programs that everyone is currently using because we don't want any confusion with students and how to log into programs and things like that. But this is coming for the coming school year. I'm going to work on it over the summer, and this is really exciting. I hope that it helps the staff, and I know that it will help the students just have an easier way to log into the multiple programs that we have here. So in order to get onto Clever, to get to Discovery Education, I'm going to put a bookmark in the CFA bookmarks folder. But until then, all you have to do is just type clever.com. And then when you go to clever.com, you're going to sign in with your district. There's going to be a button that says sign in with district. And then once you get to this page, there's two things that I want to say. One, if you are using badges, which our kindergarten teachers are actually going to try out this semester. And that just means that instead of putting in your Google account to sign into Clever, your students are going to have an actual, like a QR code badge that they'll sign in with. We're mostly going to use this in the primary classes where the students are not familiar with typing, keyboarding, things like that. But everyone else is going to log in with Google, and this includes students and staff. So click log in with Google. And then it's going to take you to a screen where either it's going to ask you to sign in with Google, or it's going to realize that you're already signed in with Google. So I'm just going to click my name, and I'm going to put in my password. Once you're logged into Clever, you're going to be taken to your portal. Your portal is where you're going to see the icons for all of the programs that you have access to. I'm not going to go into the portal very much because I'm going to go into that later. There's lots of capabilities, but pretty much you have different types of apps on here. Some of them are single sign-on, which means you do not have to sign in if you use Clever. And then there are some that are just bookmarks. Like, for example, I put a bookmark for Cape Fear Academy, my backpack, and Epic Books. I'm going to go down here. Like I said, we right now only have this set up for Discovery Education. I do have it set up for BrainPop, so you can log into BrainPop using Clever, but you can still use the username and password that everyone's been using so far. So I'm going to go ahead and click on whichever icon where I want to go. Once you click that icon, it's going to take you to Discovery Education, and then you're able to use it. Once you've logged into Discovery Education, you'll be taken to My Discovery Education homepage. This is the place where you're going to find all of the tools that you might need. This is where you're going to find content that has been curated for you. And this is where you'll start every time you log into the program. If you scroll down the page, there's a couple things you're going to notice. Each of these resources, you can
At the top of the page, you're going to find your hub. Your hub contains any of the tools that you're going to be using when you use Discovery Education. You're just going to ignore this one. You will not see it. But it's going to start with My Classrooms. My Classrooms is where you're going to be taken to find any data from your students that you have in your class. Your class should already be set up once you have logged in through Clever, and student accounts should already be created. Once you get in here, you'll be able to see your students. You'll be able to see all the assignments that you have sent to them, the assignments that they have completed, student reports on how they've done, results on those assignments that they've done, and also any student boards. And we'll talk about this later. Student boards are activities that students actually create in Discovery Education. So all of that is going to be under My Classroom. Right next to that, you're going to have My Content. My Content is where you're going to find any content that you have used, anything that you have uploaded, because you can't upload resources from your cell phone. QuickList, I'll talk to you in a minute about QuickList. QuickList is pretty much where you can bookmark a resource that you might want to use. You can create folders. Folders are useful because you can create a folder for, let's say, every unit that you are going to teach. So at the beginning of a unit, you might want to share a unit with your students, and we'll talk more about that later. You'll find school content. So once the school starts using Discovery Education and creating resources and creating folders, these will show up here. So if you want to use the same resources as, let's say, the teacher who's teaching the same class, you can do that. Also, district content pretty much would be the same thing. It would be anything that is shared among the school. So we're going to go back. Now you're going to see quizzes. Quizzes is where you can create these short assessments, short interactive assessments to find out what your students already know, what your students have learned. You can do a live quiz where you actually say the questions and then your students answer right in front of you. You can do a live or assigned standard quiz, or you can do a video quiz. So you can have your students watch a video and then answer questions based on that video. So this is where all your quizzes will be. You have your studio, and we're going to talk more later about the studio, but pretty much the studio is where teachers and students can create interactive activities, demonstrations, and share. So a teacher can create an interactive board and share with the students, or in turn, students can create a presentation using Discovery Education tools, Discovery Education videos, and they can input their own videos. So you'll have this, these are the ones that you have created, the ones that have been shared with you, ones that you've been assigned. So this is where the students will see their assigned activities, and then that is the studio. But we'll come back and talk about that in a little bit. You have your assessment builder. You can create assessments in Discovery Education. So we're just going to do a practice assessment. Just going to give it a title. You can give instructions to your student. And then you can take any of the content that you have saved. I don't have any content right now, so I can't save it. But you can create the content, attach it to your assessment, and assign it to your students. And then you'll be able to see how the students do on those assessments. When it comes to browsing, you can browse a couple ways. You can browse by subject. So I can filter down, let's do mathematics. I want numbers and operations, and it's narrowing it down each time. Let's say number of concepts. And so I see all of these resources that are available, and it tells you what it is: video, a constructed response, a segment, a PDF activity. Then it breaks it down into the type of resource. So these are all videos. This is different resources, a math explanation, activities. But you also you can browse by standard. So if you want to be really specific to what standard you want to have a resource for, let's say I want understanding that people work together and create rules and follow rules. And then it gives me all of the resources that closely relate to that standard. And you can break it even further by videos, interactives, lessons, and so on. Let me go back. And then there's educator supports. There's a lot of really good videos in here. A couple of them are just getting started how to use Discovery Education. There are resources in here to help you there's other resources in here to help you do things like teach lessons. There's a math activity right here, practicing area. There is a polar bear adaptations video. And it's broken down into grade levels. So here's the K through 2, 3 through 5, 6 through 8, 9 through 12, and then subject specific content. So there's a lot of different resources available. There's professional learning, instructional strategies, summarizing, citing evidence. So there's a lot of really good resources that we have in here available to us. So if I go back to my home page, I'm going to scroll down and I'm just going to see a couple things that are available to us. First, there's something that is included in our curriculum. We have a coding resource. But if you keep scrolling down, these are things that are picked by Discovery Education based on those questions you answered when you first enrolled. So these are things that are based on the fact that I put the grade level, the topic of study that I work with. Then there's my recently viewed. There's different hot picks for right now from Discovery Education. And then there's the channels that I have subscribed to based on those same questions that I answered when I first joined. So if I go up to a resource, so let's say I'm going to go to this number concepts channel. I can subscribe to it, so it would be easier to find. I can add it to my quick list. Remember, the quick list was like kind of like favorites. I can create in the studio, and we're going to talk about the studio. And then I can share. I can share through just a link, through Classroom, for my students to be able to access that channel. But I want to go ahead and search something. Let's say I want to search fractions. Now, once I search by keyword, I can narrow it down. I can narrow it to 6 through 8, and I want activities. These are the activities that are available for 6 through 8 fractions. I also can go over here. I can narrow it by topic, by type. When I talked about the studio, or when I talk about the studio, I'm going to talk about boards and slideshows. So you can narrow it down by those resources. I can narrow it by subject and then copyright. So let's say I found an activity that I want to share with my students. How about this slideshow right here? So I'm going to click on these 3 dots. And again, I can add it to my quick list. I can create in the studio. We'll talk about that in a minute. I can save it. I can share it with my students by link, but I want to actually assign. So now I want to actually assign something to my students. I'm going to go to the three dots. I still have my add to quick list. I can create in the studio. I can save it. I can share it with a link, but I want to actually assign. So it takes me to this screen. I can change the title if I want to. I can put in any instructions that I want to my students. I'm just going to leave that. I'm going to add a date. So this is the date that I want it to be visible. So let's say I want it to start on Monday, and then it's going to be due a week later on the 17th. I'm going to select a class. You can select multiple classes, or you can just select that one class. Now I'm going to assign. It tells me I have 0 students. You will have all of your students in there, the date that it'll be visible, and then the due date. Once you've assigned something to your students, they're going to, and that assignment date has passed, it'll show up for the students in their account. And just to review, you can share resources or assign resources as an individual assignment, or you can share a folder. Great ways to use folder sharing is at the beginning of the year. You can have for each month. You could have a folder for each unit. You could have a folder for certain projects that you have the students working on. It's just an easy way to share a lump sum of resources with your students at one time, and they can in turn use those resources. Now I want to go over the studio. Studio is the part of Discovery Education that you can use to make your class more interactive. Pretty much it's a collaboration space that teachers can use for students, and also students can use to create, to show their learning. There are templates that students can use to base off of their projects, and there's also templates that teachers can use to start. So I'm going to go into activity templates, and I'm just going to browse. There's two ways that you can look at them. You can look at them in tiles, or you can look at a list. There are 2 types of activities that you're going to create in the studio. One is a board. A board is kind of like a multi-page document or a project. And then there's the slideshow, which would be more like a presentation. I'm just going to look at this one right here. This one is a slideshow. It gives you the title. It gives you the skills. So it's summarizing key ideas and sequence. I'm going to go ahead and click on it. I can look at it, and you notice that it doesn't have all of the content. It just has the bare bones of the activity for you to fill things in. So I can either copy the link, I can share it with someone, or I can build this activity. And that's what it looks like in your studio. Okay, and it even gives you directions. It tells you how to use this. So add a different image to each of the first 4 slides. So I have slide 1, 2, 3, 4. On the final slide, add all 4 images. So it talks you through it. Open the 1 to 4 PDF activity below, learn more about the strategy. So it pretty much teaches you how to use this activity. It talks you through how to create it. Here is there's a video that tells you how to use the activity, and all you're going to do So once you have your activity in here, you can do a couple things. You can add content from Discovery Education, from your quick list of favorites. You can upload from your device. You can insert text, buttons, quiz items. You can also click right on the item and you can insert these things. So let's say I want to find something. Let's say a video. I'm going to insert this video right here. I'm going to insert that video and then add selected. So now this video is in the activity. I can type right in here. Oops. And then the student will be able to type in this area right here. You can also customize, so you can change the coloring, you can add backgrounds, you can add patterns. You can also add, or if you click on teacher notes, it takes you over to the teacher notes and it helps you know what to do with the activity. You can also, if you click up here where it says slide 1 of 5, you can move around your slides. You can delete slides. You can duplicate. You can add blank slides. You can add a layout slide. So all of those different things are options for you. When you are done with your activity, you can change the name of it. You can add a description to it so you can use it later, and you can also share it with the other teachers in the building. When you're done, there's a couple things you can do. You can copy the link to this for your students. You can search for people in your school or in your classroom to share it with. And then if you go up to the 3 dots up here, you can do a couple things. You can delete, you can preview it, you can copy it, or you can assign. So I want to assign this to my students. I'm going to click on continue. And same thing that we saw before, give it a title, instructions, give it a date where you want it to appear, and then the date that you want it to be due. And then I'm going to select my class. And then I'm going to assign. And then it's going to be available to my students at that time. So if I go back to my account and go to my classroom, I'm going to see the assignments that I've just assigned to my students. I'll see the first one. This was just a resource. It was a slideshow, who I assigned it to, how many completed. I can view details. I can edit. You can unassign if you decide you don't want to, or you can edit. And I see right here, this is the activity that I created in the studio. Same thing, what type it is, who, how many completed. I can also open it up. So if you wanted to show your students how to use the activity, you could do it from right here. So you tell the students, they open up the link, they can go between the different slides. Once your students have completed, you can go to student reports and it'll show you which students have finished those activities. Not only can the teacher create in the studio, but the students can also. This gives the students a great way to collaborate on projects and also use these resources in Discovery Learning while they're doing it. So you can create a board for your students to use. You can do it from scratch, a board or a slideshow, or you can use one of those activity templates. So in order for your students to be able to use this board, you have to create it for them. You can give them guidelines of things that they have to include in it. I can add teacher notes. So I might want to put text begin your project by choosing one of the topics on the board. Once you have chosen your topic, you must show the following in your project. And then I can give bullet points, numbers of the different things that they have to add on their project. So when the students you're ready for your students to participate with this project, you're going to assign. Once you're ready for your students to actually start working on their project, you can share this with them. So I have the link that I'm just going to copy and I can throw it in my classroom. Or once you have students, you can actually search your students. Like I have a test student right here. I'm going to add that student. And this is kind of like Google. They can have edit, view, or read only. I'm going to give them edit access. Make sure that you give them edit access if you want them to be able to make changes. So I have shared it with my student. Once the student logs in, they can go ahead and they can get started working on their project. There is an option that the teacher can turn on and off. There's a chat function that the students can have while they're working on this project. A situation where you might want this is if you have students who are virtual, if you aren't letting your students work in their groups in school, maybe it's something they're doing outside of school. Just be very careful when you have any kind of chat function available for the students. You probably would have to monitor it, but I just wanted you to know that that function is there. When your students are done with their project, then they would just tell you that they're completed, and then you would be able to see their progress in your account. Something else that I wanted to show you, I can't see the tools right now, but the immersive reader is over here. Actually, let me, oops. Wanted to show you another really cool tool that you can use in the studio. So I just inserted a text box right here. Over here, you're going to see the immersive reader. The immersive reader is a tool that you can use for your students that are not yet learning, or your students that are not yet reading, your students that are struggling readers, students that just need a little bit of help. There's a couple things that it does. One, it plays it for you
to create a poster based on your assigned topic.
So it's got the text, so it's got the read aloud. You can also change the size of the text. You can change the font of the text, the theme of the text. So students that maybe have vision issues. You can also turn on these tools to show different noun or different parts of speech. So the nouns will be highlighted, the adjectives highlighted. You can also turn on the line focus, which helps students concentrate on the part of the story that they're reading. There's also a dictionary. There's a translation tool the students can use. You can do it by word or by just the whole document. But the immersive reader is only available when you're using the studio. And this also goes for when you are creating activities for your students, they'll also be able to use this immersive reader. If you are going to use the studio and create activities and use the immersive reader, I would suggest going over how to use the immersive reader first with your students so they are familiar with it. And again, when they open up their board, it's this button right here that says immersive reader. That's how they're going to use it. And that picks up any text that is in your board, no matter if it is just one part of the board or takes up the whole thing. It's going to pick up any text. So that's Discovery Education. I did not go over everything that is available to you in here. There's so much in here that you can use. We do have a subscription for all of the students in all 3 of the schools, and it does go from kindergarten to 12th grade. What I would do is just log in and search your subject that you teach and just see what's in there. There's all kinds of resources in there that you might be able to use. I would also go to the educator supports and I would go through a couple of the videos to help you get familiar with how to use Discovery Education, some of the professional learning. There's a lot of really good resources in here that we have that I don't think anybody even realized we had access to. If you would like to have some one-on-one training to use Discovery Education, or if you would like for me to come to your class to help you roll it out, I would love to come and help you. But I hope this video has been helpful.